Hey guys, so I'm still working on the whole narrative thing, but I got a video idea for you, right? And it's a loose argument about why Pokemon Brilliant Diamond is actually a good game and people on the internet need to be crying less. So, Pokemon, the legendary franchise that no one likes anymore. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Yeah, so real quick, at its core, classic Pokemon is a very simple game. It's a top-down Zelda-style grid with capture mechanics and a very simplified RPG battle system. Originating in the Game Boy, it's clear how the basic format was very straightforward program-wise. Even then, the original Pokemon was still very buggy. As the formula was proven to be a success, more games kept being pumped out over time, and then Pokemon started to change over time. Now, to keep in perspective, keep in mind that the game started all the way in 1996, and as time went on, evolved. Similar to Zelda, as it originated as a top-down perspective game. As 3D was introduced, the series evolved with that, as it's supposed to, right? But with Pokemon, you could say that the concept is very tied together to the format, as the hardware didn't allow for anything other than the basic idea of Pokemon to shine through. And as time went on, around the time of Black and White, where Black and White changed to a from a purely 2D aesthetic to a mix between 2D and 3D, which is considered to be a very high watermark point in the series. Some might even consider it to be the peak of the series. After that, we get to the what I consider to be the modern era, and the Black and White acting as a transitional period, where it's starting at, what is it, X? No, was it X and Y? Oh, the one with the deer. Starting with the one with the deer, which I can't call right. I think it's X and Y, but starting with that one, you have the change to from a purely 2D or 2D 3D to specifically mainly 3D art style. And yeah, that's what we gotta get into. So for the most part, I've been comparing Pokemon to Zelda, and I think I'm doing it for a reason, because Zelda is that watermark that every game looks at for an example of what gaming is doing, right? It started off with the top-down perspective that had this world where exploration was possible, and then Zelda moved on to 3D space and Ocarina of Time after Mario 64 had pioneered that 3D technology, if I'm kind of looking at it broadly, right? So Pokemon, unlike Zelda, who has always strived to innovate in as time changes to different formats, Pokemon has taken this step of 3D as a means to do the opposite. It's almost as if by taking this innovation is being leveraged as a way to not innovate any longer, if that makes sense. I wouldn't necessarily call it a Sonic situation, because in my opinion Sonic never it's not so much that Sonic didn't want to innovate, more like it just didn't know how or didn't really succeed, whereas in Pokemon very much succeeded, in fact over succeeded. But because of this over success and people buying and time kind of, innovating for them, they became very much a boat on the river, just floating and coasting and repeating. And you can tell that after, I speculate that right after X and Y, or not X and Y, the DS game, right when they moved into 3D, that gave them the perfect opportunity to scale back the ambition of the Pokemon team. You can say that it's almost as if after this change, they became more set in their ways, almost like the style, the art had fully turned into style. We had the formula down, we had the story beats down, and all they did from there was add more gimmicks or change around certain things. And I mean, a certain element of this was always around, even in the classic games, how they always had like a weird side mode gimmick to kind of take a second pillar from that. But it was clear that even from starting in the original game, the main concept and appeal of Pokemon was catching and battling your Pokemon, regardless of what that looked like or had that be. Even in the simplistic RPG mechanics that they presented us, that was enough to capture our attention. And as time went on, as the visuals got better, those basic mechanics didn't. But because the expectation of us grew, it's almost as if we kept getting more and more disconnected from what Pokemon was offering us. It was an expectation of innovation and letdown. And I think this is why Pokemon Arceus, for example, was such a good success, even though that game was not good. Even when they innovate, it's still very disappointing innovation because they didn't take it all away. They just did the bare minimum to have a perceived innovation, if that makes sense. Now, over time, it's been progressively getting worse and worse. I think it's the worstness peaked in the Switch era, and that mainly comes from the idea that the Switch blurs the lines between console and gaming handheld console. And with console expectations, we expect console innovation. And when we're not giving that, and in fact we're giving a very shallow version of what that looks like, still being same old Pokemon, fans get angry, and it's harder to ignore the lack of creativity going on in these games. So imagine how I feel when this argument is kind of applied to the remake of Brilliant Diamond on Switch, and how basically people didn't like it because of the perceived laziness to it. But I love that game because it's been so long since I got in a traditional Pokemon experience, a traditional Pokemon game, back when they peaked all the way back in Brilliant Diamond, where that series. At the end of the day, Pokemon's basic concept is gotta catch them all and let's battle. You have trainer battles and you have the ability to capture Pokemons. On top of that, you have the leagues, the story, Team Rocket, and those are the basic elements. And that formula is very simplistic in nature. We don't need to upgrade the hardware to make that shine through. If anything, we need to take the hardware we have and try to polish the hell out of it. And I can't stand people that tell me that I don't enjoy a retro style Pokemon experience, because even Diamond as it is, even the potential I missed out on, it's still that classic Pokemon that I fell in love with all the way back when I played the Red remake. And that's really all I could ask for a Pokemon fan, and that's why I like the remake. But that's all for the video. Real quick, the channel's getting better, quality going up, and I hope that it continuously goes up, and there's something for someone to grab onto and maybe be entertained, because I mean, it's all stories, right? But yeah, if you like what you see, like and subscribe and leave a comment for your opinions, and let's try to make this work, make this grow, because I'm gonna keep working anyways. But